this weekend is one of my favorite sports weekends of the year. Saturday is the 122nd version of the Army-Navy football game, which I've watched about 35 of the past 37 games, and aside from being a great game, it's also a celebration of the men and women who serve in the military. The United States and Canada have often stood side by side in battlefields around the world. From the beaches of Normandy to Afghanistan and Iraq, Canada and the US has stood up to tyrannical leaders and dictators around the world who don't allow the people of their country to live freely and as they choose. Also this weekend is the 108th Grey Cup, and first since 2019, with last year's game being cancelled for the first time since World War I. The Grey Cup is often a celebration of all things Canadian. While proof of vaccination is already required to attend this year's Grey Cup at Tim Hortons Field in Hamilton, starting in January 2022, all people in Ontario, which is Canada's most populated province with nearly 15 million people, will require a QR code to be allowed to participate in society. No entry to sporting events, concerts, restaurants, college or university, unless you have a government-issued QR code. I wasn't there on the beaches in Normandy or fighting in Afghanistan or Iraq, but I'm fairly certain the men and women who were there didn't risk or even give up their lives in order to allow Justin Trudeau to enforce QR codes on the people of Canada.
You deserve better. You deserve a government that's going to continue to say, get vaccinated. And you know what? If you don't want to get vaccinated, that's your choice. But don't think you can get on a plane or a train besides vaccinated people and put them at risk.
In 2022 in Canada, which is supposedly a free country, if you don't behave in the manner that they like, you simply don't get to participate in society. QR codes to participate in society is a dark and slippery slope, and all Canadians and Americans need to put a stop to this immediately. Over the past year or so, Justin Trudeau has held numerous press conferences announcing that he's secured hundreds of millions of doses of vaccines. Well, there's only about 35 million people in Canada. Have you asked yourself, how did he know at that time we were going to need that many doses, when all of us were told just 2 doses and you'll get your life and freedom back?
We have also reached an agreement with them to supply up to 76 million doses of their vaccine. Vaccines are the path out of this pandemic. And that's why securing doses and getting them to the front lines is my #1 priority. Yesterday, you may have heard that the White House is talking about sending Canada 1.5 million doses of AstraZeneca. We have a deal, as you pointed out, for 20 million AstraZeneca vaccines. Those are not from the Indian production facility. I believe they're from the AstraZeneca facility in South Korea. But I can announce that we have reached an agreement with Pfizer to buy an additional 20 million doses of their COVID-19 vaccine. From our agreements with Moderna and Pfizer alone, we will now have 80 million doses of COVID-19 vaccines arriving this year. And this week, we begin our ramp-up phase. Throughout April and May, 1 million doses a week are scheduled to arrive from Pfizer alone, plus Moderna, plus AstraZeneca. And for June, we have good news to share this morning. Pfizer has now confirmed that they will be moving up 5 million doses from later in the summer into June. That'll bring our total from 4.6 million to 9.6 million doses for that month alone.
None of this is a coincidence. The QR code was the game plan from day one. All of this was part of the game plan that many of you are struggling to grasp or see how it's unfolding. Think about how old this planet is, and for the first time in the history of this planet that is millions of years old, we have a flu-like virus that continues to morph into new variant after new variant that also comes with a carefully crafted and packaged worldwide media-sponsored fear campaign in support of each new variant. Doesn't any of this strike you as odd? You also need to look at the other amazing coincidences of how these variants curiously seem to arise at the exact same time the G7 and other world leaders get together at conferences in fancy European cities. From January 2021 to 24 in the year 2020, the World Economic Forum held their annual conference in Davos, Switzerland, with most of the G7 leaders, as well as dozens of other world and business leaders in attendance. Curiously, also on January 2020, Chinese scientists confirmed the COVID-19 virus does transmit from human to human. And then on January 23rd, the city of Wuhan was the first city in the world to go into a COVID lockdown. This was all unfolding while many of the world's leaders were all in the same room in Davos. Then on January 31st, the World Health Organization issues a global health emergency. In June of 2021, at the exact time the G7 conference was happening in Cornwall, England, the new supposed Delta variant was being introduced and pumped across media all over the world. Then from October 31st to November 13 in 2021, the G7 and many other world and business leaders all met in Glasgow, Scotland for the UN Climate Change Conference. Coincidentally, this conference coincided with the introduction of the new OMICRON variant, supposedly spreading all across the world. Just like the players in the Army-Navy game who go back into the huddle in between most plays to await instruction on the next piece of the game plan, the leaders of the world who are responsible for this sinister game plan also do the same. The latest variant in the world is said to be Omicron and coming out of South Africa. Also coincidentally, did you know that South Africa was one of only 4 invited countries to the latest G7 conference in June? And now we have Omicron. We'll also just avoid the coincidence of Event 201 that took place in October 2019, sponsored by the World Economic Forum and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, that features members of the CDC and WHO, along with various intelligence agencies and business leaders around the world, who planned out a response to a worldwide pandemic unfolding with a highly contagious virus. Let's just forget about that coincidence and all of that happening in October 2019, because all of those in attendance swear that the actual pandemic unfolding just a few weeks later was a giant coincidence. Isn't it amazing how many once-in-a-lifetime coincidences there have been over the past 2 years when it comes to flu-like viruses? First time it's a stranger, second time it's just a coincidence, third time it's a tale. These QR codes are no coincidence. This was the game plan from day one, along with total and absolute control of everything you will do in life. That's the game plan for you and your children. And we the people need to call an audible at the line of scrimmage and get this stopped, which is where we're at right now. The men and women who stormed the beaches of Normandy and who fought in subsequent wars didn't do so Canadians and Americans can be forced to use a QR code to participate in society. This has to stop now.